Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do a comparison of alcohol-based markers. So I'm going to just start by saying one costs more than the other, and we'll talk about the cost of it. But the question is, does one perform better than the other? And we'll do a sampling on different paper types. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go through this part pretty quickly because you're going to see me doing some coloring and I'll explain why. But first we're going to compare the Copic on the left against Spectrum Noir on the right. Now I will say the colors are not an exact match. So I took a blue and you'll see later on I took a pink. What I'm trying to do here is do the first one blending the different colors in, and then I really try to do some real serious blending, and I cannot say that I'm perfect at it, but I do try to do some blending on the other ones. And so if I was doing this within a stamp or something like that, I would have taken more time, but I just want to give the general idea of what's going on here. So you'll see that when I'm doing this, it's on the Bristol smooth cardstock, and then I move on to the Neenah Classic Solar White. So while it's going pretty fast here, I will show you at the end how they turned out, because you've got to let alcohol markers dry a little bit. So I go through on each of the paper. I will say the Bristol Smooth Bright White is very smooth. Both of them seem to go on very well. I didn't have any issues with the Neenah Classic Solar White either. As I'm laying these markers, or laying the ink down, I start with the lightest one, go to the medium, and so on until I get to the brightest color, and then I go in reverse. Now, there's different ways you can blend. I am not an expert in this, so I will include some links of people that do this much better than I do. But I move on to a watercolor hot press paper. Now, I will say that watercolor paper is not really designed for alcohol markers, but I thought I'd try them since I was doing it and see what happens. It's a little off center here, but you will see good examples of them when I'm finished. So again, I use the same ink, the same process, light to dark, and then in reverse, going back. At some points, I think I use the light one, and it sometimes gets too light, so I go back with the medium color. So I finish up here with the pink, and I start comparing the Copic. Here's the 3 different versions of it. And then I have the same thing for Spectrum Noir. So the same pens, just used on different paper. I think that there is definitely some similarities and some differences. So here's my thoughts. The Copic marker, in my opinion, just on this test, really outperformed as far as being a vibrant color on all 3 cardstocks. I can't say that I'm the best blender of alcohol markers, so I mentioned before I'll include some links of people that are good at this. But I do think they look better when you let the alcohol dry. They blend even more. What I did notice is the pink in the Spectrum Noir. I thought it actually did okay on the bright, the Bristol Smooth Bright cardstock, and even in the Neenah Classic. It just wasn't brilliant. It wasn't bright. It was very light, but they did blend. So I will say for that point, the blue just did not look great. I don't know if it looked great because of my bad coloring, but on either version. But I will say on the Spectrum Noir, what happens is it really faded. It looks very washed out, almost like a faded blue jean. And I think the light color just took too much out of the dye. That's my opinion. I don't really see it fading as much in the Copic markers. And I think you can see that somewhat here on the screen. So just in comparison. Okay, so let's talk cost. I'm going to do a comparison that makes sense, that there's a lot of different options out there for Copic. So I'll give you two things about Copic. One, you can buy them at Michael's. I've bought them on Amazon, and you can buy them in kits or individually. Individually, they run, I think, anywhere between $5 and maybe $8 or $9. There's also online stores. But for a 6-piece set, so you can get those at Michael's sometimes too, or on Amazon. On Amazon, they run $25. For the Spectrum Noir Illustrator, for a 6-piece set, and there's different versions of it on Amazon, about $16. I bought it on HSN. I can no longer find it there, and it was a larger kit. The reason why I would not recommend the Spectrum Noir, the ones that are in, I don't know what they're called, but they're in the black pens, is the tips of them are not great for blending, in my opinion, just my opinion. So I would go ahead and check that out. And again, I'll include links. There's a lot of different versions. Do not buy a large Copic kit unless that's something that you really want to do professionally or want to make that investment. They are hundreds of dollars. So that's, again, my recommendation. Stick with something small. Try it out for yourself. If you are using these with stamps, make sure you have an ink that is friendly for alcohol, that when you put these markers on it, it does not, disperse and go away. So with that, thank you so much for joining today. Hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. Leave comments below. Let me know, what is it that you liked about these markers? Do you have some? Do you have other markers? These are not the only two on the market, so let me know.